Look, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I just kind of wanted to cover a Christmas movie, and as I looked around, somehow I completely forgot about the murderous snowman in Jack Frost, which is based on science. I mean, sketchy science, but possibly science nonetheless. Instead, I chose this. Next year, we got Jack Frost. But this year, hold on to your butts because I don't think I ever needed to see this many buck-nude old man elves ever in my life. In an extremely small village, at least that's what I'm assuming it is, as there only appears to be a couple of outcroppings of buildings and like one cop, a mountain nearby is being drilled into for reasons unbeknownst to the town's people. Fervently working, heat sources at the foot of the mountain begin to go missing until finally people start disappearing as well, with the parents really less concerned about where their offspring are, which is quite wild. But what exactly is taking people and what is up with the mountain drilling? Well, let's discuss that in this whimsical Christmas-laden episode covering Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale. But first, this episode is sponsored by Techland's Dying Light the Beast. Welcome to Castor Woods. This once thriving tourist destination has become home to a diminishing number of survivors and an increasing population of zombies. And much like how you were the caged animal with years of brutal experimentation making you trapped in there with them, now they're trapped in here with you. Beast-like powers flow through your veins as you discover this is a gift, not a curse. You experience the first-hand torment Kyle Crane has endured for over 13 years in this standalone installment into the Dying Light series, Dying Light the Beast. Developing these beast-like powers can help you turn the tables on the zombies that continue to infect the world, but it could be a bit of a slippery slope as he risks becoming the monster in turn. Heading into the forest, the lives of everyone hang in the balance due to the actions of one man named Baron, an emotionless, calculating but brilliant scientist hell-bent on restoring order as a moral duty. Reaching 1 million on wish lists in less than 10 weeks is nothing short of incredible, and because of this, Dying Light the Beast will release summer of 2025 on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. So wishlist it yourself today using the links in the description. But as always, I want to thank you guys for watching. If you enjoy this content, let me know by liking it because it really does help the video. Also, I'm posting on Roanoke Tales. That's going pretty strong. Roanoke Games, I'm still planning on stuff. I just had to take a little bit of a break this week to kind of focus on other stuff. So check that out for more content if you would like to watch. Also, check out my Discord where we watch movies every month and then end up on here. Links for everything in the description. We kick off our story with this being from Oscilloscope Laboratories. Whom? I swear at this point in my YouTube career, I thought I had seen every production company known to man, and yet they still keep popping up. It's 24 days to Christmas as a man sits in the middle of the room with a cane while another looks through drill samples. Number 76, 1,300 feet down. They found something more than just plain rock or dirt. What they found appears to be sawdust. As the man smells it, it is in fact sawdust. Some would even claim Mary saw. Okay, that was lame. The driller then says he thought it was an old tree or something, but they kept drilling and it just is more sawdust. Perhaps a giant Yuletide log. Actually, fun fact, I got a buddy who's in a movie called Yule Log from Adult Swim. You should go and watch it after this, and then come back here and guess which one is him. All I can tell you, I don't want to spoil too much. It doesn't go well. Anyhow, the sawdust level goes for about 65 feet. The man says it makes sense as they stored ice by encasing it in sawdust. Yes, but why would it go for 65 feet? Storing something big? The mountain is alleged to be a giant icebox with something below it. He then tells them to keep drilling, and then eventually they will see. Operation cannot possibly go wrong except on Christmas this time. Engage. The foreman then says they will keep drilling, but they need to know exactly what they're drilling for, as then they hear a noise and the men start shouting. The old man then hands the foreman new safety instructions. No drinking, no smoking, no cursing, no loitering, no cavorting, and of course, no arguing. So basically take all your human nature and put it in the trash. The man says it's Christmas time, so let's act like it. Heading outside, two younglings are watching them continuing their drilling operations in that area. They're definitely not supposed to be there. Petrari and Juso, I believe are their names. Sample number 98 is then handed to the old man as the foreman says he thinks he was right. The ice core has something in it, as the old man says, always believe. So is it like a candy cane or what's in there? Is it the one guy singing Chestnut? Chestnut roasting on an open fire, or whatever? Truly, the songbird of our generation. I think he's a YouTuber. Anyways, I'm sure my editor can put it over that. Anyway, so bad news on that front. Whatever's in there will never be shown to us. Addressing the men, he then tells them to shut up as he says his Yuletide dream is about to come true. As they take off their helmets, again, it's not OSHA or certified, but again, they're in Finland, so I guess it doesn't matter. He says they are on a sacred grave. He claims it puts the pyramids to shame. He says they have 24 days to open the grave and prepare the dynamite. Summing it up in one sentence, they have a grave to rob. The two younglings then take off down the mountainside back towards their snowmobile in the border zone. Concluding that Santa is in fact up there, I'm not really sure how they came to that conclusion. One of the boys then asks if Santa is dead, which actually no, we track him with NORAD every single year. Santa is very much so real. You can trust me. I'm a biologist. We have taxonomic evidence. Get it? Gnome? Because you see, gnomes are close to elves. So they discuss the validity of Santa, who is 100% real, as the older of the two doesn't believe it. Meanwhile, detonations happen on the mountain as they watch their dig continue at a feverish pace. Petrari then goes and reads up on Santa at this point. Luckily, he doesn't have the same dead eyes like the boy from Polar Express, as then he watches the mountain. I'm thinking they're going to be accidentally releasing Krampus instead of Santa, but that's just my 2 cents on the matter. Let's find out. Time passes as time tends to do, and now it is 1 day till Christmas. And this tripped me up earlier, as this means actually it's December 23rd. So I guess technically I feel like it's 2 days. Anyhow, Petrari's father sharpens his stick down in a pit. A punji pit it looks like. Climbing out, he begins covering it with limbs and snow. This actually is, it's a legitimate punji pit. Hanging a pig's head above it, he then starts hearing some wolves howl, and then he heads back up the hillside to his house. Calling out to his son, he's been up all night reading about Santa. What a Chad. I don't know why, but the youngling wakes up like he's already hungover. You still have the key to your energy levels. Once you hit your later 20s, or you're like me in your early 30s, and I'm pretty sure other people are gonna say it gets worse from here, you lose that for some reason. It starts sounding like a 6-liter diesel engine in the cold starting up. Takes a minute. So opening the advent calendar, he then makes sure to tape shut the 24th, which also, did you warn your offspring about the punji pit outside? Might be a good idea. Looking down, he then sees the lights are off as they were unplugged. Brother, put on some pants before running out there. This is Finland. It's gotta be a little chilly, right? So banging on the barn door, he then calls out to his old man saying he has something important to tell him, but his dad says to go back inside or the wolves will eat him. Heading into the barn anyways, his dad tells him to shut his eyes as he's working. He's currently in there butchering a pig, as then his son tells him to keep the lights on. His dad says, well, I didn't turn off the lights, which should be a little concerning, right? So he heads back outside towards the house. He continues looking up at the mountain as it continues to stand there menacingly. He says it's spying on him, as then we jump over to the snowmobile. The two then head out into the wilderness to do what is called a roundup. They are rounding up all the reindeer that they let out in, the spring to reproduce, is what I'm guessing. I'm not a Finnish reindeer farmer, so I don't really know. Anyways, approaching a camp with several others, his old man then hands him the force multiplier saying this is his now. Justo now shows up with a cigarette, and another man gets the fences electrified. The man then says the fences are for protection. There are quite a few wolves in the area, so it does make sense. So they talk about what they're doing on the mountain, as then they see a few of the reindeer are starting to show up. Moving into the inside of the gate, they then watch them approach, but it's just the runts of the litter. As they say, they are too skinny. Expecting more to follow, they continue to wait there, but none of the rest actually show up. So they say something must have gone wrong. Getting on the snowmobiles, they head back to where the reindeer came from and then find all the others. Coming up over a hillside, they find basically all of the reindeer have been sucked dry. What a way to go out. Well, now they're screwed because there's no food from the few reindeer that they were actually going to take out, and there's no money from the meat that they were going to sell. So they figure out they're probably down about $85,000 at this point. So it's about to be a very unmerry Christmas. The dad then leaves Petrari and Juso as then they drive through. Walking through the area, looking around, the reindeer look absolutely depleted. Their bodies line all the way to the fence. Another man is already there as they ask what kind of wolves could have done this. They say that they must have been blasting up there that drove the Russian wolves into this area. When the younglings then cut through the fence, they assume they let the wolves in, which then freaks out Juso, who says they can't tell anyone that it's their fault. Up on the mountain though, it has been quiet for a few days. Juso then approaches as the dad says there are 430 carcasses here. Again, they should have gotten around 85,000 from this alone. That means the men on the mountain functionally robbed them of their income. Petrari then looks and finds footprints under one of the deer that indicates this was not a wolf. So clearly from the footprints, it matches what he was looking at actually in the book earlier. The footprints are said to be Santa's footprints, and they are very much so human. However, they appear to be a bit there appears to be a crossed wire situation going on. As we will come to find out, the real Santa appears to eat younglings, at least according to Finnish lore, until there is basically nothing left. However, what we see probably isn't Santa. So in typical European fashion, if you didn't know, it seems like fairy tales are actually horrible and have much darker meanings. Literally, if you look at the origin of most fairy tales, For instance, you'll probably find like a German version that's way worse. I remember asking my ex-father-in-law, who's German, if he got told the story about a guy who runs around cutting off the thumbs of kids who suck their thumbs, like it was a joke when I asked it. And he's like, oh, dir gescheit vom Darmschlosser? I think that's not even how you remotely pronounce it, but that was my best attempt. He immediately knew the story. Like, what is going on over there? But we will talk about that later, the crossed wires, that is, not the thumb cutting. That's pretty much confirmed already. So they decide to go up the mountain and have a nice chat with the drillers up there about their blasting. Ascending the mountain in the night, and that's gotta be cold as all get out, looking around and not seeing really any evidence of anyone in the immediate vicinity, they then head to the stairs to find that the door is already open. Entering the shelter, it's ransacked with the radio still operational calling out. Nobody has been there in days, and everyone appears to have left in a hurry. Juso and another man then approach the light and cut it on. Calling out to the rest of the men, man, they are just absolutely leaving, like Petrari in every location to do whatever he wants. He looks through their notes as he finds a reference to an area where they found him. Outside, they have deduced that this was not a seismic thing, but a drilling thing. They were looking for something, tossing a flare down into the dig site. It goes way down, like all the way down. We were talking like Tal Volantis levels in Dead Space 3 of down into the ice and rock. Back home, Petrari then starts stapling shut the 24th. He's armored up and staying strapped. Juso laughs at him as then he hands him a picture of Krampus cooking someone. He says the real Santa totally sucks. Like the Coca-Cola Santa was cool though. He then shows him the maps and the picture about how Santa tears apart bad younglings. As we will come to find out, however, this may be a mistake of misidentification. And this hinges on Santa being real, of course, which again, who do you think NORAD is tracking? Would they really lie to us? The government doesn't lie. Don't look into that statement. Also, man, why would you want to open up this dude's grave? He eats people to the point that not even their skeletons are left. But the story goes on. The people that lived here got tired of this jackwagon ransacking the villages and then lured him out into an area where he broke through the ice and was encased. They then built a mountain on top of him just to stop him from ever being discovered. Back outside, the Christmas lights turn on as Petrari watches Juso leave before heading back inside. His old man is making food as Petrari asks if he's making gingerbread. They continue eating the gingerbread as the dad asks if he was outside playing hockey because of his gear. Petrari randomly then questions what would happen if he didn't exist or he just disappeared. He then tells him, you should just disappear to your bed, it's late. Gee, Dad, thanks for the information on that one. Then Petrari asks if his dad has been good or not, and then locks and loads Brides of Christ and heads to bed. So the dad then starts crying. I mean, yeah, losing all that money with the reindeer issue is a bit of a problem, and with your son asking some pretty heavy questions the whole time, I imagine it's probably a difficult thought process. So Petrari tried to stay up the entire night at his window with keys in hand as then he passes out. I have no idea what these keys or charms are, to be honest with you. He's just holding them. So back on the mountain, we then jump over to the few days before they went up there to find everybody missing. The old man with the cane continues to ask if the cargo is ready or not. The foreman then says, screw you about the safety instructions, demanding to know what they have actually found. As then he yells at the old man, he has violated the rules and thus has been deemed naughty. Man, that word has been absolutely ruined in the modern age. Hearing a noise, it then turns as all the hard hats get thrown around as then we see two legs appear. It is now Christmas Eve, but it says 0 days until Christmas. I feel like 0 days till Christmas is Christmas, right? Anyways, maybe I'm the one just tripping. The old man has burned the meatloaf and getting a fire going, or attempting to. A murderous Yuletide log comes to life as this wakes up Petrari. Running downstairs, his old man is ready to give him the chair as a wolf trap had been put inside of the fireplace on purpose. Petrari put it there to stop Santa from coming down the chimney early. His dad then yells at him as it scared the holly jolly holy crap out of him as Petrari then heads outside to go pee. Bleeding the lizard, he then looks out and spots something. Calling out to his old man, he says the bait is gone, which means something is likely in the punji pit. Approaching the pit, something clearly fell in, finding bloody feathers and then a hand. The dad tells him it's nothing as he brings his son back up to the house. Finishing up breakfast with very clearly a body in the punji pit, Petrari wants to go down there and see what it is. Like, this kid, again, continues asking heavy questions as his old man is then asked if he's angry at him. The dad then grounds him as he gets up to go talk to whoever just pulled up. Grabbing his stuffed animal, he then heads up and sees one of the dads with a Santa outfit on as they are carrying something with them out of the punji pit. Pulling back the tarp, it's a man with a wallet and black feet that appear kind of frostbitten. Finding his passport, it's a man named Jonathan Green, born in 1952, or so it's alleged. Meanwhile, Petrari disregards the grounding and then heads outside. Debating on calling the cops, Santa impersonator says, What is he going to say? Wolf pits are illegal for this exact reason. Someone could fall in and you would be liable for that. The dad basically is just going to take this dude and let the wolves have him, that he assumes also took out his reindeer. They decide to move ahead with the gruesome task of cutting him apart to make the job easy. Merry Christmas, by the way. Petrari now goes to the punji pit, jumping down into it, which, hey, one mess up there, bro, and this would have been a very different movie. Finding a sack of sorts, it looks like a mannequin doll was made to take on the image of the person living in the house. At least somewhat, that is. I mean, I'd like to think I could immediately identify that this was not my offspring, but who knows, maybe I wouldn't. Mainly because I haven't had those yet. So as the dad then grabs an arm, he pulls it towards the blade as then it pulls back from him. Using the knife, they realize he is still breathing. The nose starts moving as they surmise he's sniffing something. Petrari is watching this dude as then Santa, I guess, kind of looks over, spotting him in the window. They cover him back up with a tarp as then the dad yells at his son. Nothing like a dark family secret to bond everyone together permanently, making every Christmas extremely awkward. Jumping into the shitbox 9000. Wait a minute. I know what this is. Yo, that's a 3rd gen Datsun Patrol, Datsun or whatever. These trucks, much like the T100s, or I guess when Toyota was making pickups around this time, they just called them pickups. These were actually pretty good trucks. I mean, not amazing, but considering this truck had been in Finland for around 30 years at this point and hadn't completely fallen apart, that's pretty good. I believe this specifically is the 1981 Datsun Patrol, the 160 series, I think they were called. They came with, at the most base level, a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder engine, which, not amazingly strong, typically was more fuel efficient and was more torquey. This ran all the way up to the 3.3 liter turbo 6-cylinder diesel. These bad boys had around like 118 horsepower and around 148 pound-foot of torque and around 3,200 RPMs. Really, I mean, that's enough if you are intentionally planning on driving this truck. Much like my first gen Tacoma, these trucks aren't winning any speed competitions, but for light duty work, they are perfect. And also reliability, because I picked up my Tacoma in Tacoma, Washington, drove it to Alabama, then drove it back up to Iowa for Junkyard Dig's wedding, and then drove it back to Georgia to go back out to Texas for range day, to go back to Alabama, then back to Georgia, then down to Florida, and then back here again. So these trucks in general, man, of this era are just chef's kiss. But anyways, the biggest drawback of these trucks in particular appears to be that they would overheat. Luckily though, you're in Finland, so the odds of you overheating in winter are probably not that high. Of course, just because the air is cold doesn't mean your engine's going to stay cool. You need antifreeze in the system so that the fluid can flow and cool the engine properly. But as soon as that air hits the radiator, you're golden, pony boy. Anyhow, so he takes off after Petrari, looking at him as the cops just happen to be rolling by. Man, what timing. Petrari then flags him down as the dad shakes his head, knowing the inadvertent murder that he just committed is likely about to be revealed. Following the cops, this would be a little concerning, and then stopping off at another location, the cop gets out asking what the dad's fancy dress is for, remarking at his blood-covered apron. The cop then says, it's been kind of a strange morning with weird stuff happening all over the town. They are there as one of the men from earlier called in to get the cops out there. And as they enter his barn, they find what appears to be a bunch of potatoes everywhere. All the radiators in every house were stolen last night, as well as several ovens. Even some hair dryers were stolen. Anything that produces warmth apparently got snatched up, and nobody knows why. The dad says they should be getting home, as the cop grabs the dad, saying they should take a look at his car. Petrari goes and then finds Juuso inside. Since he's already, kind of in the area, he wants to see what his friend's up to. And then entering the room, he sees Hare, but he doesn't respond to him talking to him. Poking him, he then finds he's been replaced by a doll very similar to what he found in the punji pit. Running outside, Petrari says Juuso has been taken, but they don't believe him as his dad asks if he can go. The dad then asks if another guy can speak English, as they need an interpreter. Returning back to the magical slaughterhouse of wonders, it's now a slaughter home actually, with all these friends showing up. Santa impersonator then pulls back the tarp, calling him an old devil and eating gingerbread. He sees him sniffing again as he gives him some of the gingerbread, his eyes slightly open as he touches his mouth with it. Listening to him, Santa impersonator then gets grabbed. Back in the shitbox extraordinaire, which I wouldn't mind owning one of these one day. I mean, the Toyota Hilux kind of first though, as long as Whistling Diesel doesn't destroy all of them before they have a chance to be preserved, because they're still making those to this day and there's not a finite amount of those or anything. Anyways, really short-sighted thinking aside, the dad then informs the other guy of the American visitor, or as they assume him to be, American, they don't really know. Meanwhile, Santa impersonator is cleaning out his ear because he had just gotten bitten by the old man. He says whatever is in there is not human. Heading inside the slaughter home, They then see the old man squatting on the floor. Sounds pretty bad. They then say someone needs to go talk to him, as then another guy approaches asking how he likes the land of the northern lights. The old man continues to say nothing. So they use their God-given right at this point, as the dad grabs a poking stick. Approaching him, I'm assuming Kris Kringle at this point, he pokes him and says, nah, he's harmless. The Santa impersonator just straight up got bit by him earlier, so not really sure how harmless this guy is, as the other man approaches telling him to wake up as they need money, which I'm assuming they think this guy is responsible for the issue, maybe because they think that he came down from the mountain. Meanwhile, Petrari is calling people asking if their offspring is home. Running down the list of all like 6, I think, it's probably like 7. I'm working off memory here. No, they are not. And everyone who answers doesn't seem to be remotely concerned about the fact that their offspring are not even there. Like, they hadn't seen him all morning, right? So they begin asking the man where his friends are and what did they dig inside of the mountain. So as he doesn't answer, they get more and more frustrated as the interpreter tells them this is his last chance. Petrari then starts banging on the door, and this gets the dude's attention, which is a little weird. Petrari then gives his dad a switch, saying he deserves to be smacked as he's been bad. He confesses that he and Juice went up on the mountain and made the hole in the fence. With all the other offspring gone, he's totally tweaking over this. The Santa impersonator then comes out saying that he needs to come and see this. Entering the room, the old man has bitten the stick in half that the interpreter was using to poke him. The old man then sees Petrari and stands, which is not a good sign. Petrari then says the guy's been spying on them. He goes on to suggest that this is Santa Claus, which I was right. I guess Santa Claus ain't looking so good. But here's the crux of the issue. This is alleged to be Santa. Seeing as that would be the case, he cannot be injured by normal means, obviously, except by evidently a punji stick. And as we will see, however, this is something else entirely. I know, not a lot of science in this one, but it is just the Christmas episode. So he says the group on the mountain dug him up. Santa now starts moving as they realize he has his own language and they could not even begin to communicate with him because they don't even know what language it is. They fire a shot at him as then they tie him up and watch him watching them. Sharing gingerbread, the radio then goes off as they start listening. Pulling out the radio, they hand it to the interpreter. Someone begins asking if Santa is ready to fly. The dad responds saying he has Santa, and then he tells them they have him for sale since they lost all their reindeer. Back in the Christmas spirit shitbox, they discuss the exchange. They say he could be worth a lot, and it's the real Santa Claus after all, so why not ask for a lot? Someone is going to get rich off him, as Dad says, yeah, that's the plan, as then they pass an oven on the side of the road. Getting out at the meeting place, they leave Petrari in the truck as a helicopter approaches. Sub-Zero Inc. has arrived, and as they stand there, they actually find the interpreter's wife's hairdryer. Well, that solves that mystery. Letting the old man out from earlier, he then walks up to the 3 men. The old man asks who they are and where his men are. The interpreter says, let's do business. He asks how much they want, as the interpreter says, $85K. The Santa impersonator says, why not ask for at least $1 million? This guy knows what's up. They then just want what they're owed for the reindeer. The old man asks where the cargo is, as then they bring out the alleged real Santa. As the old man approaches, Petrari then opens up the door and is not really listening to his dad as per usual. Inspecting Santa, the old man then touches him. No shot, brother. I'm not putting my hand in that cage or anywhere near that cage. Petrari then says this is the last door as he approaches the one with the giant 24. Touching his stuffed animal, he then heads through it. Santa looks up at the old man as his eyes begin to change. The old man tells him to put down their handhelds and smile as nice as they can. Move slowly and do as the old man says. The old man says that this is not the real Santa, this is one of his helpers. An argument then breaks out as the pilot in the helicopter gets dragged off. Looking around, they see an old man in the distance as well as several others who look exactly like this guy. So it appears the Santas of old, or that or the mall Santa Union finally fell apart, they all look like the Santas that we would think of. So I see a few possibilities concerning this. Either there is a big evil Santa and these Santas are sort of just cloned from him or working for him, and that would make these elves, and every interaction humanity has ever had has involved these guys instead of the big bad at the top. Of course, if this is the case, then that would mean there is no good Santa, I guess, but these guys would have also been seen. So this would mean they're likely just working for Krampus then. And if there's a Krampus, that means the other possibility is that there is in fact a Santa Claus, and these ones impersonate him, which would still relate back to Krampus. And I mean, after all, Krampus is like a mega tool, we all get that, but you may be asking, Who is Krampus? Or Krampus? If you're living in the South, it's Krampus. We all know by now, given that there's been quite a few movies explaining him, but let's get into the lore real quick, because that's something I need to justify even making this episode, because I am not trying to be just a movie review channel, although let's be real here, I just kind of wanted to cover this movie. Krampus represents the duality of man's nature, or at least a personification of it. In Eastern Alpine folklore, this horned creature with big hooves would visit younglings on December 5th. And if you were a terrible one, you would be punished. Krampusnacht takes place the night before the Feast of St. Nicholas on December 6th, where you would be rewarded if you were good. I mean, obviously this was a way to scare younglings into being good. Apart from like the hooves and horns, he's essentially depicted as like a devil figure with a long pointed tongue, possessing fangs, and in general just not looking like a cool guy to hang out with. In some cases, if the offspring was bad enough that year, he would steal them and put them in a bag and take them to the underworld, where I'm guessing he would eat them. Interestingly though, in the 1900s for a while, discussing Krampus or participating in anything traditional related to Krampus was banned in Austria. In the 1950s, they kind of relaxed more, which they basically just said he was evil, which, I mean, I think everyone kind of understood that he wasn't just like a bro. But they did so to protect younglings' mental health, as it became a bit of a concern that they shouldn't just be scared, or at least that scared. Then again, just prior, I'm sure with enough of the rest of the crap that was going on not very long before this in that part of the world, that the younglings had real things to be scared of. Adding Krampus likely just seemed to be overkill at that point. But ultimately, there had been a resurgence in the last 5 decades concerning Krampus being discussed and traditions being brought back into view. Obviously, there are several movies, even some on this channel, that have discussed Krampus already. But the takeaway is, much like how St. Nicholas rewards good younglings, Krampus was there to punish the wicked ones. So you better not cry and you better not shout, or potentially a bunch of naked mall Santas will show up and steal your oven and hairdryer and anything else like radiators in the middle of the night, and possibly even your offspring. So turning around, oh man. All right, so the Santa's elves are evil. The old man gets a pickaxe in the head, which that sucks. Running back to the shitbox, Petrari is gone. They open it up on Santa's helpers as they approach the 24 door and then head inside. Petrari is entranced by something, as then they see it too. He says they have built a nest for Santa. So here we have it. This is definitively Krampus, brother. Like, it's nobody else. So anyways, they stole everything that produces heat as they were trying to thaw him out. They also spot the younglings who were stolen and then placed in bags, ready to be taken to Krampus' lair. Breaking the radiators and closing the ovens, they go to kind of stop this alleged Santa from breaking free while they get Josso released. Unfortunately, it's a bit too late for the ice breaking, as it appears to already start breaking. Petrari then looks up and he yells at his old man, or amigo, or Peperian, basically everybody else, to listen to him, but nobody does. So he fires off a shot to get their attention. He says as long as the younglings are here, the elves won't leave. He says if it comes down to, like, basically between him and Santa, he suggests Santa, as there's just a massive amount of TNT sitting there. Santa impersonator then heads outside as the elves have pretty much the place entirely surrounded. He then eats gingerbread, showing he's good and having a great time, a downright merry time, some would say, as he drops some to the elves who begin eating it. He then grabs the helmet from the pilot and runs over to the helicopter. Calling back on the radio, he somehow has the piloting skills for this, as then he gets it into the air and loads everyone up in a net as he airlifts the younglings out of there. Flying off, the dad starts drilling into the ice holding Santa, or Krampus, whichever. It's Krampus, let's be real. Santa impersonator then stops over the area with Petrari, as this has led the elves away to follow them, which looks totally horrifying. Turning around, they then head back towards the pens as Petrari wants to lead them into the pens to trap them. Flying up, Petrari has a magical Christmas moment, leading a bunch of buck-nude old man elves to reindeer pens. Not on my bingo card. Back at Krampus, they have set the charges all over the ice. They discuss who Santa even really is as they steal both of the horns and then load it into the shitbox. Getting back to the pens, they then hover over the head, but unfortunately the gate is closed. Petrari says he can open it though, jumping down. Brother, that was a fall if you missed. Climbing down, and then approaches the gate, opening it up to let in the elves. As the elves run at him, man, this always seems like a good plan until you're literally staring down the consequences. He then starts up the fence and he calls out to the Santa impersonator, telling him to tell his dad what he did. Brother, climb out of there. What are you doing? So as the elves run in, no thanks, this is absolutely horrific. They start bringing back the horns and they get far enough away from the blast site and then set it off, detonating the building, and with it, probably, it's no shot that it isn't Krampus. Also, there goes your hearing, brother, because you guys were way too close. Back at the pen, the elves then all stop as their bond has been severed. The miracle of Christmas has just happened. The elves are completely out of a job. Petrari then tells him to take the younglings home as it's well past their bedtime. The next morning, now it's officially Christmas. The dates had me absolutely tripping all over what was going down. They arrive in the Christmas shitbox as they approach the pin. They have captured 198 Santas. The question is then raised, how much are they worth? At least 85K, right? And like, are we talking like human meat? Well, each one is 85K, so that comes out to 16.8 million. Again, how are you planning on selling these guys? Who is the buyer? What is happening? So father and son bonding moment ensues over their catch, and it's now 312 days until Christmas as they wash the elves down. Fast forwarding after that definitely necessary washdown scene, it's 76 days until Christmas, and they are being handed dolls. They are teaching them how to behave like Santa. This is hilarious. So one graduates, getting the point on, how to do this and be a Santa impersonator, bringing in a commanding $13 an hour. They then export him under the rare exports to Zanzibar as their Christmas empire has become unstoppable. Loading him up onto a cargo plane, this is evidently a pretty good business model as they are able to afford a freaking cargo plane and thus concludes rare exports. So I'm like 88% sure this is Krampus. As far as I know, delving into the depths, no man should have to learn about Krampus, being Wikipedia. The identity and help from his elves are unmistakable, so this would seem to imply there really is a Santa out there, and the rare export group is now getting in on some of that sweet, sweet silver and gold Christmas money. But anyhow, I want to thank you guys for watching. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, or if you don't celebrate anything. I just hope you have an awesome holiday and a great new year as we head towards that. If you enjoyed, then leaving a like would be great of you, and subscribing is a great way to stay up to date when I post. I'll drop my Twitter, Discord, Patreon, Roanoke Tales, and games link in the description. Speaking of patrons, I'd like to thank mine real quick. First, I'd like to thank our astronaut, Tristan Kessick. Thank you, my man. Next, I'd like to thank our astrophysicist, Death Dancer, and Feather. Thank you guys as well. And to my scientists, Eris, Dakota23, Invictus Echo, Metric System, Official Texan, and Virix Hellstrom. I do appreciate y'all's support as well. And to the rest of my patrons, also thank you guys. I hope you had a good year, and I hope moving into the new year, you guys are doing well also. But all right, that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see everyone in the next one.